depression that bothers around the woman. Ladies, girls, and even children that happen to have just one gender, the one I and even yourself get to talk about. And we are talking about the female gender, women like you and me. We're going to be breaking the silence this afternoon, having conversations about topics that are not discussed as much as they should. And we are talking about mental health today on the program. And so you want to grab your seats, strap your seatbelts, and get ready because we are in for a very interesting and long drive. Stay with me, and when I come back from this break, let us continue like we never even left off. Welcome back. It's still in Power Hour on Spectrum TV. And today we are talking about the mental health of a woman, breaking the silence. You see, mental health is one of the least discussed but most pressing health issue in Africa. It affects both men and women, but today we are going to be concentrating on the woman. You see, women face a unique and double burden. First, we talk about the general stigma surrounding mental illnesses, and second, we talk about societal and cultural expectation that a woman must endure her struggles without any form of complaints. You see, the World Health Organization, WHO, estimates and shows that more than 116 million people in Africa get to suffer from depression and anxiety, with the woman being twice as likely as the men. What this means simply is that for every 10 men you see going through mental health challenges, we're pointing out to 20 women who are highly susceptible to going through mental health challenges. At least 15% of the population in every African country target women specifically to have health burdens mentally. Now let's talk about the reality of women's mental health in Africa. Let us start from the very first one that gets to put women in a point where we understand that this is a silent epidemic. You see, depression is the leading cause of disability among women worldwide. In Africa, women face daily pressures such as poverty, domestic violence, early marriages, and even unemployment. You see, all of these factors compound the risk of depression. And depression is a mood disorder, a situation where women cannot, talk about these things and know that depression happens to be a mood disorder where they have absolutely no control about how they feel and what they want to feel. So they have manic episodes, and when they are done having manic episodes, they have mania episodes. And when the mania episodes are off, then you get to see that they did not even understand what had happened with them. Depression is not a walk in the park. And when this happens, WHO reported in 2023 that 1 in 4 African women will experience a major depressive episode in her lifetime. This could range from before or even after birth. In Nigeria alone, an estimated 7 million women suffer from untreated depression. Yet, only 10% receive any form of professional care. Now, we want to point out the fact that a lot of women are undiagnosed. They do not even know that they have to suffer depression. They do not even know that the tweaks and changes in their moods and activities could be caused by a mood disorder called depression. And so going about their daily activities undiagnosed could be as a result of being bounded in societal shackles and cultural expectations, having to understand that society believes that it is just a woman's thing. And then they say, when you have a lot of problems coming up for you, maybe she's menstruating at the point. It could be as a result of menstruation. or ovulation wahala. It's just in a woman's DNA to have mood swings and all of that. But they are not just mood swings. There are a lot more that people have to concentrate on. And so we find out that these women do not open up to speak about situations like this simply because they are scared of what society will think about them, or maybe society just gets to brush it off as being very normal. Women and mood swings in quotes. Let us continue to talk about the fact that women in Africa get to face mental health crisis, but they are being silenced by stigma, they are being silenced by culture, and other they have been silenced by stigma, culture, and a lot of other situations. Inadequate policies also get to contribute to why women suffer depression, anxiety, and postpartum conditions. Now, these are not signs of weakness, dear women. We have to understand that medical issues that deserve recognition, they deserve treatment as well. So when you find out that you have to battle any mental health challenge in the first place, you need to seek healthcare. Let us also talk about maternal and reproductive policies. It is not just an option to you, dear woman. It is a necessity. You see, when women are mentally strong, their families will thrive, communities will grow, and the nations they find themselves in and even surrounding nations will develop. You see, the double stigma can only be broken when society gets to accept that a woman's mental health is just as important as her physical health. Let us look at what support networks have been put together to see how women can share experiences, some digital platforms, and even hotlines that can provide anonymous help. Once upon a time, we had a gathering of women. Women were supposed to come together and share stories about their wins, their losses, their traumatic experiences. And in this gathering, we found out that even when these women understood that it was just going to be a group counseling for mainly women, they found it very difficult to open up because of the stigma that follows right through it. We're talking about mental health challenges and we are narrowing it down to depressions and mood swings. No, it is much more than that. When we talk about mental health challenges, we are highlighting anxiety, we are highlighting pica syndrome. A lot of women tend to go through pica syndrome, but they do not understand what pica syndrome could be about at a point. And so Naomi gets to share a story where she talks about her situationship with pica syndrome and the very harmful adverse effects it's had on her. Well, let's also talk about the harmful effects of mental health stigma. When we talk about this harmful effect, we get to point out the fact that people are reluctant, women in this context, to go right ahead and talk about the situations as it matters to them. And when this happens, these women have a lot of risk very availably open to them. So we see these women in situations getting involved in suicide. And WHO points that in every 20 women, 5 of them are very open to the risk of suicide. And sometimes these are the happiest women in the room, the ones who light up the room with their presence. Recently, we have a person who, along the streets of social media, we got to hear that she had died and was beginning to rot in her room. Nobody knew the cause until a letter was read from where Sydney had kept it. And she pointed out that everything seemed bleak. After having her first child, she looks at the child and she cannot accept that there's been a lot going on with her in her life and the changes she's had to battle with because of this little bundle she looks at every other day. And so the child did die of starvation and dehydration because nobody was there to tend to the child when she took her life. And so it is very important to understand, even in healthcare training, that midwives, nurses, and even primary healthcare workers should be trained to screen women, refer women with mental health conditions. Let us also talk about community education. You see, faith leaders, teachers and community heads should be educated on mental health. Campaigns against cultural taboos should be rolled out to normalize discussions. Now, this brings me to share a story with you. Now, talking about the fact that women have double silence because of stigma. We'll share the story of Ekemini, who tells us about her battle with Pika. And in battling with Pika, she opens up that all she gets to eat matras, which is foam, the one we sleep on. And when her parents got to find out that this is what she deals with, the first question they were going to ask is, are you possessed? Why are you eating matras? Nobody tried to screen. Nobody tried to diagnose. Nobody tried to see how interventions could be taken. Nobody tried to look through to find solution-based and focused therapy for Ekemini. Everyone believed that it could have been a bad habit she picked up along the way. But Ekemini opens up that external factors of sexual harassment instigated depression, and depression causes Pica syndrome on the side. Now, this caused her to have a lot of physical adverse effect on her health and even the way she got to relate with people. Let's also talk about women who have induced autism. A lot of women have induced autism. They've had to deal with a lot of situations that make them scared of society and the people in society. Now, when this happens, they do not even know how they want to face society. And in doing that, they withdraw themselves, lock themselves back in. There are a lot of factors that cause women to go through mental health challenges. We have the social factors, we have cultural factors, we have traditional factors, and we also have spiritual factors. We're also talking about community works that could contribute as factors, external factors that could make women suffer and battle mental health challenges. All of these factors you see contribute to why women have to deal with mental health crisis. In social factors, we get to point out that women get to suffer low self-esteem, they get to suffer manipulation, and even gaslighting from the major environment, the friends they keep, family who happens to be a very great agent of socialization, and even the people they meet, people they do not even know. So one of those days, we get to share a story where a girl pointed out that she loves to wear big clothing, and wearing big clothing is sprouting out from the fact that whenever she tries to dress her body type, she gets a lot of verbal harassment from men on the streets. And because that is not what she wants to be seen for who she is, she decides to wear big clothing. Now, on one of those days, she decides to dress her body type, and walking on the road, she never stops sharing how she was met with verbal harassments and how this men did not stop sexualizing her. When that happened, she took a mental note to not ever dress her body type again. Now, we're talking about low self-esteem and lack of body confidence. Those verbal harassment can cause a woman to become doubly silenced on the mental health crisis she has got to deal with. That is that for social factors. Now, when we talk about community work, we talk about the people present in community. A community could be a religious community, it could be a social community, it could be a friendship community. Let us take a trip down to the religious community. You see, pointing out to religious communities, we get to see that some persons are picked as worthy and righteous, while some other persons are picked as not worthy and unrighteous. When this happens, we get to point out the fact that these people have to understand that they are enough, not by the standards of the people in those religious communities, but because they truly are enough because of what their Bible tells them and the indoctrination they have gotten from their parents, who tend to believe that they have to go to church. It is not about the church. It happens to be the people in the church. And it does not happen to be all of the people in the church, but some people in the church. You see, these and many more are factors by which a woman, a girl child, can get to have mental health crisis. Let us talk about policy interventions. Let us get to talk about, the consequences of all of these acts that cause mental health crisis. You see, in talking about the consequences of mental health crisis, we are not going to underrate the effects of these consequences. We're not going to push dust to shove and say, okay, everybody who goes through mental health challenges gets to heal at some point in the day. But we are going to deliberately point out the fact that there is a lot that can be done, not just for the persons going through it, but the people around them who see them going through mental health crisis. So understanding that suicide is a consequence of mental health crisis in the African woman. And we have rightly noted that over 10% of women in African countries get to commit suicide on a daily basis because of mental health crises that have been undiagnosed. Let us also talk about mental health problems that they have to deal with: depression, anxiety, lack of self-confidence. We'll also get to point out the fact that mental health challenges do not start and end with depression. We're talking about panic attacks. We're talking about they themselves becoming toxic to the people around them, the people in their environment, and even the people who love them enough to stay in their spaces. So all of these are consequences, and then you wonder how they are able to function in the environment they find themselves. Not just the environment they find themselves, but the effect for what they find themselves doing in those environments they find themselves in. You find out that they are not able to be orderly, they are not able to be tactful, they are not able to understand the basic accepts and decency of human interaction. So you are breeding, a life of rude women, antagonistic women, women who are not ready to submit, be subservient, and learn how to understand decency when it comes to human interaction. And then you get to ask the big question: how do we have a society thriving when we have such issues? We will also get to talk about how we get to end mental health stigmatization, because we have pointed out that women go through all of this mental health crisis, but they are not able to open up because of the stigma that comes with it. Now, what is stigmatization? Stigmatization happens to be all of the taunts, the mockery, and even the judgments that could come from people around you when you open up about a situation in your life. And so we are going to talk about how to end mental health stigma when we come back from this break. Make sure you stay tuned and do not go nowhere. Welcome back from that break, and we are on to the second half. We will be talking about how to end mental health stigma amongst women who battle mental health crisis. Let us start with the budgets for mental health. You see, the budgets for mental health needs to be increased. Currently, most African countries spend less than 1% of their health budget on mental health. Let us also share personal stories. You see, women behind these numbers. In Lagos, Nigeria, a mother of 3 shared her story of suffering postpartum depression. Her family accused her of being lazy and ungodly. It was only after she joined a support group that she realized that her condition was medical and not spiritual. Let us take a trip down to Uganda. A widow struggling with depression was forced into silence because of her community. What they said, that she had been cursed. With no treatment available, her condition worsened just until a support group intervened. Now you want to ask a question: if mental health and its care should be included in maternal and reproductive policy. You see, holistic care for women and their maternal health is currently measured by mortality rates, but mental health is a very crucial component, including mental health screening in the antenatal and even the postnatal care. It would improve the overall well-being of the nursing mother. It will get to prevent suicide and infant neglect. WHO, the World Health Organization, reports that suicide is now the 3rd leading cause of death among African women aged 15 to 29, young lives being cut short. You see, many of these cases are linked to untreated postpartum depression by screening and breastfeeding mothers. These cases can be prevented by reducing stigma, When government formally gets to recognize women's mental health, it would send a message that these issues are not just about personal failures, but medical conditions that need urgent treatment and attention. They are success stories to be modeled around, success stories to learn from. We have one in South Africa. We talk about the Friendly Mothers Program, where community health workers identify and support women with depression. You see, early results gets to show that a 40% improvement in women's recovery rate. Also in Kenya, we have NGOs that have integrated mental health screening into maternal clinics, helping women discuss their struggles openly. We have one in Ghana. You see, the University of Ghana is running a pilot study on using mobile health platforms to provide anonymous mental health counseling for women, even in rural areas. You see, the cultural expectation of all of this is that a mother must always be happy, and it makes it harder for women to speak up, leading to severe consequences like the neglect of the infant, hating on these infants, or even suicide. Women get to suffer in silence, and one of the leading causes are cultural taboos. You see, in many African communities, mental illnesses are being linked. In many African communities, mental illnesses are being linked to spiritual causes, witchcraft, curses. Women express struggles with depression and anxiety. They are often told to pray harder or to stop complaining. We also have gender expectations. A woman is expected to be strong, silent, and sacrificial. Expressing mental health struggles is seen as a sign of weakness or failure. This makes women hide their pain, even when it threatens their lives. We're also pointing out lack of safe spaces. You see, unlike men who sometimes have social gatherings or associations to share experiences, women often lack platforms to discuss their mental health. Many who try to speak out are silenced by community or family pressure. We have pointed all of the factors contributing to women's mental health crisis. Poverty is also a leading cause. When you're not independent economically, women represent 70% of the continent's poor financial struggles, directly impacting their mental health. Gender-based violence is also one of such factors. Approximately 36% of African women experience physical and sexual violence in their lifetimes, a major trigger for PTSD, depression, anxiety, and even panic attacks. There is limited access to healthcare. No one prioritizes mental health in Africa, and so the global average of 1 for every 11,000 never gets to work. Most women never get the help they need. And we're also pointing out the fact that there are education gaps. You see, low education levels mean many women do not recognize mental health warning signs. They do not get to seek early intervention, and this becomes a problem. So you have to understand that anxiety will happen to you when you have to work as a wife, a mother, a caregiver, and even a worker for career-oriented women. This multiple role burden will consistently breed anxiety disorder. For instance, a 2022 study by the African Journal of Psychiatry found out that 60% of urban women in Ghana and Kenya reported high levels of anxiety due to job insecurity and family expectations. You see, many of these women turn to religion or traditional rulers and healers instead of seeking medical help. We've already talked about postpartum depression. It is truly the hidden pain of motherhood. When all of this happens, we have to see how the government can put together ways to help the woman. And we have pointed out that support groups should be created. There should be sensitization for women. Women ought to understand that in the 20 to 25% of African women who experience depression, there should be some sort of help. Group counseling, support groups help. When women understand that they are not the only ones who go through certain situations, they should be able to tough it out, talk about it, and seek the help they need when they need to find it. And with all of this being said, dear woman, try to see how you can get yourself involved in having friends, community, learn to speak out. Use the internet search engines around you, search up your symptoms. EPM, Empower Her will come your way yet again. My your anchor on the program. Joel, to have yourself a very nice remaining part of today and usher the weekend in with a smile on your face.